Hello there, ladies, gentlemen and unicorns. Welcome to the first stream in 2020, and I waited until February the 2nd that we have a nice palindrome date for this stream. Please let me know if you can hear me in the chat, because as always you're never sure with me, but at least it says now live, because regular viewers of this program will know that sometimes it takes me a quarter of an hour or 3/4 of an hour to realize that I didn't go live when I was streaming. So please let me know in the chat, either that or maybe ping me on Twitter or something. But yes, Frank writes that sound seems fine, so thank you, Frank. If you want to doze off during the stream, no worries. I'm not offended, because I mean I see this as my kind of service program to some people who just need something to fall asleep to. And this is my voice, and today we're going to talk about books. Yes! Let's take a moment to celebrate this very modern or futuristic way of streaming and mediums and such, where we usually talk about high-end computing and games, and we take a step back, and today we will be talking about dead trees. That's right, books. And this is a first for me, because usually I try to keep my interests that I have aside from gaming a little bit aside of it, if this makes sense. But I thought, since I've been reading quite a lot of books on games, game making, or somewhat loosely related to making games, I thought this might be interesting to some of you, what books I can recommend, what others I don't as much recommend, and maybe there's something in there for you as well. Let's have a look at the chat to see. Yes, sound is good. Thank you, Huao. If I pronounce your name incorrectly, apologies. This is also a thing with me. Okay, so without further ado, let's switch over to the first book. And it's this one here. You can see it, I hope, in the sidebar, which should be, yes, there. I wanted to prepare a little bit more for today, but it took me the longest to have this little design there, because OBS Studio, I hate you, and I had to do this in Photoshop, because for some reason OBS likes to copy pretty much everything as reference and not as a duplicate. So I was pretty much editing the same text box over and over, and once I was done I realized that every text had the same as every other. So there's something with the sound. There are some weird stutters every now and then. Might be the same ones we had before. Oh, okay, so let's have a look at the sound first. Man, Windows updated and my sound preferences went haywire. If you hear something weird, this is another plane passing. Yes. Damn you, planes! I wanted to put this on there. Okay, but with the sound stutters, let me see what I can dig up. General. Okay, we're back at the sound settings, but so far everything looks pretty nice. Let me know if this has fixed it. I said allow applications to take exclusive control of this device, so please. It sounds like very short bits are cut out. There's no actual gap. Okay, so maybe this has to do with my stream health settings, but at least for some reason YouTube is pretty certain that for the first time it says that my stream status is excellent, which never happened before, but apparently now we have stutters. Again, with the new year, it's always technical difficulties with me. Thank you so much for bearing with me. I think I will. I don't know what I have to do to mitigate all those issues that we're having, but oh man, this is really sad. Oh, okay, so I got an. I think I know what the problem is now. Okay, let me know if that fixed it now and if the sound is better. It sounds like very short bits are cut out. Okay, because I think now I had 3 audio inputs and every single one was this microphone. So I deactivated pretty much all of them, and now there's only this microphone. recording, sound levels, advanced, listen to this device. Okay, can you still hear me? Please give me some feedback in the chat, because I have no way of confirming that this is working or not. All I can see is myself with a very puzzled and frustrated face looking into this direction, because this is where I have the settings and the chat. This really sucks. I don't know. Every time something updates with Windows, all my audio settings go haywire. For those who are interested, I'm running a what's it called? A Sound Blaster XZX something. And I thought having a sound card would, yeah, pretty much solve all the problems. But no, still the stutters. Forget them. It's not that bad. Okay, again, apologies for this kind of stuttering. Maybe this is good, because it forces me perhaps to slow down a little bit, because I've noticed that I talk quite fast, which is probably due to the amount of coffee that I've had each time before I stream, which is more than 1 cup. And also I like to listen to podcasts when I'm driving, but at double the speed, so that things speed up a little. And when I'm listening to a podcast at twice the speed and I come home, my poor wife doesn't understand a word, because I'm just so fast talking. Okay, so let's hope that the stutters aren't as bad. If you missed something important, please let me know right away in the chat. Apart from that, let's knock on wood that it doesn't get even worse. So sorry. Okay, so finally, after 7 minutes and 45 seconds, let's get back to books and games. So this book, the Game Engine Black Book of Wolfenstein 3D, is from Fabien Sanglar. He's quite notorious, is the wrong word, but he's rather famous for diving into source code and explaining stuff on his blog, that is fabiensanglar.net. It's just, if you don't know how to write it, because it's French, it's there. So it's just .net, and there is his blog. You know what? Maybe I still have it there. This is his wonderful website, and recently he has been delving into another world and how things got rendered, and yeah, essentially just another source code dive and how things were achieved, how they were. What's really cool about his work is that everything is very visual and very clear explained. So it really helps, of course, if you have a background with programming. I would say it's even important to have one. But if you don't, everything in this book here is very well established. So only twice the speed. One of my coworkers listens to everything at 3 times the speed. Okay, 3 times I can't do. 2.5 is the highest that I'm able to listen to. So okay, before talking about anything more about how well this book is laid out in terms of how it explains things, let me just open some pages that you can see about the rough layout of it. Pretty much, it first explains how things were working at the time of the game Wolfenstein 3D was being made, and what the challenges were at the time. And I think this is a very interesting and very helpful approach, because first, yeah, he lines out what the situation was with extended memory and expanded memory on DOS. If you don't know what this means, congratulations, you were born way later than all the troubles that we had to go through in terms of preparing this DOS memory. Because with DOS, it still had those baggages from the past where it would only see 1 megabyte of memory, and then it has the expanded memory, but most games wouldn't see it. Otherwise, there was some extenders. The point is, everything gets explained here, and also how VGA graphics cards worked, because it's not like today where you just have an API to say OpenGL, DirectX, or Vulkan or something, where you can say, yeah, just these are the vertices and these are the textures, just put them on screen. Essentially, you didn't have any kind of dedicated graphics hardware, so everything had to be done on the CPU. On a 386 computer, pseudo 3D environments, if you know Wolfenstein, of course. So, and also at a decent frame rate, and with music and sound playing. So how was this achieved? Well, this book, like I said, lines it out very well, and it's got colored pictures. It explains the tools that they worked with. Here are some concept drawings, of course, how things went to be, and then of course we have what's very interesting to most of us is wonderful C code, source code explained, and also everything really, this whole ray casting thing there is explained in detail, pretty much on a per pixel basis, just going through the entire algorithm of how John Carmack got this to work. And then of course there was another thing that is also ancient to us today, is you couldn't do floating point calculations, at least not a lot of them, if you were interested in speed. And if you want to have some refresh rates of like 15 frames per second, you couldn't do floating point, so they had to use, for example, fixed point. And if any one of you had this problem of really understanding how floating point works at a machine level, yeah, what's this mantissa thing and where are the bytes stored? And actually this book has a very straightforward and wonderful way of explaining this whole thing, and very visual way of explaining how floating points actually work. So even if you know, it's nice to have this kind of refresh there. Oh my god, look at this formulas and graphs. It's amazing. So yeah, this book, like I said, it has lots of wonderful pictures, and it's, if you're interested in a little bit of computing and programming history, because I don't think there is much out there in terms of how actual code looked like that should be or was supposed to run under a DOS environment for a 386 where you didn't have a floating point coprocessor. Yeah, this is a book definitely is for you. Even if you're mildly interested in how those old games were made, it's, to me personally, it's a treasure trove, and it got, like I said, lots of illustrations there in full color. And the only downside to this is that it's relatively expensive. I think this costs 40 euros or something. But I got the first edition. There's already a revised second edition, so I urge you to get that if you are interested in this. But to me, it was, like I said, it was a treasure trove, because the book doesn't delve into it goes straight to the source code and evaluates that line by line. Like I said, it's a nice mixture of how things were at the time, what were the challenges, and the many incredible and ingenuity ways, with a lot of ingenuity of how to overcome this. Alone, if you're interested in how VGA graphics cards worked, because there were so many limitations, the bus width, how much cycles you had per second, and so on. And this is a prime example of how to cut the right corners, that you still get something that looks 3D-ish, isn't quite 3D, but it was the best that you could do with computers back then. And of course, it was a milestone in a sense on getting first-person shooters really started as a genre, or Doom clones as they were called, for a couple of months right after Doom came out, which brings us to the follow-up book that came out last year, or 2 years ago actually, which is also by Fabien Sanglard, and it's called Game Engine Black Book Doom, because it's very straightforward. And this book is pretty much expands upon what we had before from the Wolfenstein 3D book. So some things that make an appearance in this book are just mentioned here, that you should have a look at these concepts in the other book. For example, this whole VGA thing that I just lined out. What is very interesting to Doom in comparison to Wolfenstein is that Doom was made not... they had a development computer, in a sense, where they just wrote the whole source code and then compiled it for DOS and ran it on DOS. Whereas Wolfenstein was, I think, programmed on DOS, like you would have do it in the old Commodore 64 homebrew days, where you would use the computer you were developing for also as the developing environment. I mean, today, of course, it's pretty straightforward to, yeah, if you're working on a PC, of course you can run your code and test it while you're working in the editor. But back in those days, you didn't have multitasking, for one thing. everything. So when you were doing stuff in DOS, you were in Borland C++ or something. Programmed it, compiled it, however long this took, rebooted your computer, tested it, and if things worked, great. If they don't, which of course when you're developing something, then the computer froze, you had to hard reset it, boot into your programming environment, and this was the cycle back then. So no in-editor play button like you have in Unity today. And with Doom, id Software had a dedicated developing system, and this was the next station. And also this book, like with Wolfenstein, chronicles also the environment and also a little bit of background of how this next workstation came to be, because not a lot of people, I've realized, have heard of this. It's a little bit of an outlier. It's a mix between a Mac and a Unix computer, because just a little bit of history. The Next corporation was founded by Steve Jobs when he was booted from Apple, which happened in the mid-late 80s, of course, not the 90s. And he started making another computer company with the Next workstations that were pretty much targeted to high-end content development programming, because they were in full color. At least the latest versions, I think, were in full color, had absurd amounts of display resolution compared to DOS VGA, and they were really easy to program. They had some kind of GUI system already implemented so that you could easily expand upon them. So it was pretty much a godsend if you want to work iteratively. And this is what this book, of course, like I said, chronicles. And again, it goes into much detail about how everything came to be. And it tries to be really comprehensive, not only, like I said, in terms of the source code itself, but also here, for example, here is how this Next station motherboard looked. What are the individual components? I think it's a little bit blurry here. Oh, look at this! I'm still having here the wrong pop-up at the side. Let me change that. No, it was already the correct one. Apologies. Okay, so yeah, it goes into this. For example, here's a screenshot from this Next station, the workspace manager. So yeah, it was like I said, it's comprehensive in a way that you don't often see when books chronicling development of a certain game. And they have here start a chapter with, yeah, this is the layout of the office the guys worked in. And here is where they were from. And this is a chart or a table of how old they were. Here is a photo, of course, of id Software with the door they hacked through with a battle axe, because it was the 90s and it was just guys being guys. And I think the story went that John Romero once was trapped in his office and he couldn't get out, and it was after office hours, so they couldn't call the building manager. And John Carmack realized that he had a real battle axe in his office, so he just had to hack through the door, because this was apparently the most obvious thing to do. Well, I mean... John Carmack, we all know this guy is very straightforward when it comes to finding the optimal solutions, and for his mind it was going through the office door with an axe. And I mean, it worked, so what do I know? Anthony Salter writes, I need to get these books. Yeah, like I said, I thought, yeah, they might be very dry and hard to read, but you really get into them. And even if I don't fully understand some kind of unwrapped assembly routines there, or what exactly is going on, I get the gist of it, and it's very interesting to see like all those hurdles yet you wouldn't think are necessary today to overcome. For example, they had to write their own memory manager because they couldn't rely upon what the DOS extender provided them with. And in the end, of course, what do? Well, I write my own memory manager. But on the plus side, hey, no garbage collection kicking in, or at least you know when it would kick in. Have you ever seen Game Engine Architecture? The book is bigger than, well, I don't think there is anything that can be compared. No, I haven't heard of Game Engine Architecture, but I have a fear that it's like this thick, and it's from back from front to back, just C++ code that is way above my head, and this is probably why I haven't checked it out. But I think to some people, a book about doing your own engine, I mean, it's quite educational. I've heard people say, if you want to make games, don't make your own engine, because you will be making just an engine and trying to make it work. And if you ever manage to have it robust enough to start with your game, you just waste it and don't want to do it. But I think, hey, if you want to do it, and if it's, like I said, limited in scope or something, I think there's nothing better to learn about how everything needs to work for a game than writing your own engine. That being said, I will probably never do this ever, I think. There is no C++. It's just a theory. Oh, this is okay. This is good. This sounds very interesting, because with the theory, it's not as stated as like with some programming books. Just if you look at them 3 years later, I just threw out a book. Well, it was not 3 years later, but it was just the big HTML4 guide now with PHP. Great, it's from 2001, this book was, and I looked through it and said, it's quaint. So if it's just the concepts, this sounds cool. So please, if you can, put a link there in the chat for other people to check it out. I was just wrapping up with the Doom book. Like I said, it's from front to back, filled with nice illustrations, how the pseudo 3D graphics worked. It's quite ingenious. Like I said, I thought it was very dry, and took it out to the cafe and wanted to just read a little bit and get started at least. And then I looked up, it was dark outside, it was 4 hours later, and I was halfway through it, because it's just so engrossing. And like I said, it's so nice with all those visuals, and even some bugs that were discovered. For example, there is one bug with the palette effects. When you are hit by an enemy, of course, the screen turns red for a bit. But the first palette entry with palette entry 0, was it this one here or this one? It doesn't get chosen, because the palette entries are from 0 to 8, but the first palette that's being selected is number 1, so it skips the first one. So I think it's quite interesting, so that everything already is a little bit tinted towards red and gives Doom this gritty, dirty, brownish, reddish look. Oh my god, binary space partitioning. If you want to learn about this is it's not really spoiling it, but let's just say spoiler warning. How did they manage to run Doom at a decent frame rate on 486 computers? It was that when John Carmack finally somehow happened to stumble upon a paper about BSP, binary space partitioning. We constantly, when you're in essence, it's just a tree structure, and you discard nodes. It's just one or the other, depending on where in a certain locality, in a level where you are standing, what needs to be rendered and what doesn't. And this really speeds things up, because that way you don't have to go through everything that's in a level and see, can I see this wall? No. Can I see this wall? No. 60 frames per second, or as it was, I think 25 or 35, I think was the target frame rate, or the intended speed of Doom on DOS. Like I said, I'm starting to ramble now, so apologies, but it's like from front to back, filled with interesting stuff. And there is also quite this much text about the console ports of Doom, because as we all know, Doom was pretty much ported to everything else. It runs even on a toaster, and this book goes also into why it's so easy, relatively speaking, to port Doom, because it was very cleverly developed and from the architecture there. And in terms of console ports, just to show you how thorough this book is for each console, it also offers here the diagrams of the motherboard, and this is, for example, a Super Famicom cartridge, and the circuits that are there, and what was special about a certain architecture. For example, the Super Nintendo had, of course, superior graphics, but it didn't had the processing power. So what did they do? Well, they had to get the Super FX chip from Argonaut software, which was used for Star Fox, just to speed things up. And also on the PlayStation, you would think the PlayStation, since it's a console developed with the intention of being 3D accelerated, you just could do this stuff with the integrated 3D acceleration functions that the PlayStation provided. No, that's not what they did, because the PlayStation didn't have perspective correction for all the polygons, essentially. So you wouldn't have, if you looked at a polygon at an angle, the texture on this triangle would not get smaller as with a vanishing point, essentially, but it would just be distorted in screen space. And this is why you get in those PlayStation games, always the textures are always a little bit wobbly, because the only way to get the textures somewhat stable is to subdivide everything and have thousands of polygons and so on. So again, I'm rambling, sorry, but this is a really great book, and I enjoyed my time with it very much. And look at this, there is this perspective correction formula right there. So there you go. Isn't this great? So again, from Fabian Sanglar, and even if you don't want to shell out money for the books, his website, that's fabiansanglar.net, is pretty much accessible from anywhere, and it's a good start if you want to get into the nitty-gritty details of some source code tricks that developers use to overcome certain limitations of certain systems, which I always find interesting. And maybe there are some cherries you can pick out for your own things. For example, what I've learned was that it's better if you try to avoid if statements. For GPU caching, I think this is nowadays it's not much of an issue, but back then, of course, you had the CPU would fetch some instructions, and once there was an if branch, of course, there wouldn't be enough follow-up instructions in the cache, so the CPU had to request more program data and so on. So. Or that you would have your loops your for loops not count up but count down, because then you just have a condition check if something is 0, and this is in assembly it's much faster, or at least a little bit faster, and all those little things that I try to work into my code now and then. And if people say, what did you do this for? I said, optimization for DOS compatible computers, because I'm an idiot and I don't know what I'm doing, but at least it sounds cool. Okay, let's have another look at the chat. There are 3 editions. I have some interesting devices that run Doom. I like the quotes about interesting devices. If you ever want not to be able to play properly because the screen is way too small and the controls are terrible, get in SanDisk Sansa C to 50 MP3 player, install Rockbox on it, and go. Instant Doom. There's another plane. I think another plane is a perfect excuse to switch over to the next book. Man, those planes are really loud. Probably because I have the window open. Never mind. So yeah, just as a nice segue, so we were looking into the technical difficulties and everything that went into making Doom. But if you're more interested in a different history of how Doom got made, and if you're not so much interested in all those technical details, fear no more, because now, there we go. I can recommend you Masters of Doom, which is a novel-length book by Ian Schreiber. No, this is another book by David Kushner, who chronicled pretty much the rise of id Software from the early days when they were working at Software Creations, and the guys just realized that they could work very well together, and how they founded Doom, and all those social stuff that goes on when a bunch of people have a success very early and very fast and are on the cutting edge of technology, and everything that entails this. And it's very well written. I mean, this book is from 2000. It's wrong. It says 2017, but it's wrong. This book is from 2000 and 3, I think. Yes, 2003. And I got 2 of those. Because this one is the American edition and this one is the British edition. I'm not quite sure which one is thicker, but the British edition has something interesting, and I have to show you this. There, it's an autographed version from John Romero, and I think this is a registered trademark symbol because he had to register his name. Actually, this is the second autograph I got from Romero, but the other one I will show you in a bit. So yeah, this book, like I said, is a completely different read. You will, of course, have some overlaps with the Black Book Doom, because the Black Book I think quotes this book on some occasions, but also of course other sources for more of the technicalities of the development. And yeah, like I said, this book is like, if you're interested in or want to get this kind of startup flair, for me personally, this is always inspiring, of reading how things started for some people. And there is this nice anecdote with Masters of Doom. Like I said, they were John Carmack and John Romero were working at Software Creations, which was a software publisher that they had mail order. I think it was a subscription service where they would mail out a disc with interesting programs for users every month. And there was also a game on there. And so every month, Romero and co had to make a game, which I think reminds me a little bit of game jamming, right? And John Carmack always pushed the technology, and I think it was with Tom Hall there, that one day Carmack managed to get scrolling, full screen scrolling, vertically and horizontally, working on a PC. And I think this was the early 90s, which was a big thing because those were office machines. They couldn't scroll. You were lucky if you had something more in them than the PC speaker or more than 16 colors. So they didn't have more than 16 colors, but in one night they managed to recreate the first level of Super Mario Bros. 3. Pixel perfect. The only difference was, instead of Mario, it was Dangerous Dave. This was a sprite that they had from a game somewhere before them. In one night they made this level. I think it had 2 levels, but it was the first Mario 3 level. It was called Dangerous Dave in copyright infringement because it was a Mario level, right? And the next day they showed it to John Romero, who wasn't part of this late night coding session. And the story goes that he looked at Carmack and Tom Hall and said, once he saw this real-time scrolling, he said, "Dude, we're so out of here." And this is how they really started id Software. But for the rest, of course, read this book. Like I said, it's very interesting. You can get it as ebook, and I had a great time with it. Again, it's not so much delves not so much into the technicalities and programming stuff, which at the time when I was reading this, I found a little bit frustrating, because I wanted to know how they did this trick, and it's just alluded to, but of course you don't want to scare off any readers who aren't that much into programming. And this is why this book is a great companion book to Masters of Doom, if you're at all interested in this whole era of making games. Again, there is activity in the chat, so I assume my voice is still coming through. Doom is best played on Navy radar computers. I think I've once seen a toaster with a display running Doom, so or also a fridge or something. Why not? If it runs, it runs. Do it. Or if you want something really horrible, try it on a Sansa Clip Plus. Oh my god, I have no idea what this is, but if it manages to run Doom, why not? Master of Doom is a great book. Everyone should read it. I think so too. I agree. And to segue to the last book I have for today, about John Romero. Where is he now? Right now he's living with his wife in Galway, in Ireland, I think. And they are, I think John Romero also did some original Doom levels for the very first Doom, or was it Doom 2, with music from Buckethead. But it's just maps that run in a game that was almost, it's almost, how old is Doom? 27 years now. And the man himself, John Romero, made new levels for that. And right now he's working with his wife in Ireland, and they have this company they call Romero Games. But, well, who is his wife? That's quite interesting, because that is Brenda Romero, but her maiden name was let me just peek, just that I don't say anything wrong. Braithwaite. And why is this important? Well, she worked in Canada on, I think, on the first Wizardry games and also Jagged Alliance. So she got also a strong background in designing board games. And frankly, I have to say that she's more a game designer than John Romero. And sometimes this always... sometimes it irks me a little bit when they say, yeah, this is the wife of John Romero. Well, she has a name and she's an accomplished game designer herself, so it's not just the wife of John Romero. So, which brings us to the next book. No, this is not the next book. This was the previous book. There we go. This is the next book. This book was written by Brenda Braithwaite and Ian Schreiber, and it is a workbook, essentially. Maybe if you studied game design, you probably have seen this before. I hadn't. I just one day I went to shop.romerogames.com and saw this nice little book, and I ordered it because what is it about? Challenges for game designers, non-digital exercises for video game designers. And I think this is excellent, and it's so fun to work through all those exercises. Because I think when we are as game designers, usually we think, yeah, we prototype something in GameMaker or in Unity and just try to see if it works or something. And what I've realized with all my Game Jam stuff or experiences is that, of course, the longest time it takes me to get character movement and stuff going. And once I just start to hit upon the field of actual game design, how interactions work, how player progression, level design, pretty much everything that's not just the technical difficulties of having a sprite move around and bump into stuff, then the jam is over. And this, all those analog exercises really force you to think more in terms of systems and mechanics, that you're not burdened by the technicalities of getting something display on the screen. Because you know me, that I'm more about polishing than everything else. And when I say, I'm just making a quick test project, just a sprite that moves around so that I can do some level design exercises. But the sprite, you know what? It looks a little bit weird. Maybe let's animate it a little bit. Okay, let's give it a shadow. Okay, now the rest looks weird. Let's make the walls nicer. You know what? I could do this in 3D. Let's fire up Maya and do a nice stone texture. You know what? Maybe I could go out and do some photogrammetry of a stone wall there. And then, of course, I would need maybe trees, but trees are difficult. Well, why not? And in the end, you see where this is going. I didn't do any kind of game design exercises because I was clicking in Photoshop, cleaning up a normal map of some photogrammetry stuff. So, and this is why this book apparently was made for me. Let's have a look at the chat, because there's stuff going on. Printers, I'm not sure if prints are each frame, though that would be funny. Oh, it's a flip book. Just search things Doom can run. It can run on pianos. It's so weird. Always wanted to write an MPEG decoder in PostScript so you can have a printer decode your movie and print it frame by frame. This is so weird. Go for it. The world needs more artistic expressions of programming, things that look completely nonsensical, but in the end, it's a nice exercise. And I mean, it just made me laugh. So So why not? Probably your article get featured in Gamma Sutra, or if you manage to do this. But I don't know a lot about codecs and I don't speak PostScript, so I'll go further than one. Okay, yeah, fair enough. So maybe hold it off for a bit. Yeah, so let's have a look a little. Oh, all right. I promised you, I teased you that I also have another autograph of John Romero. And this is the bag that this book came in from Ireland, from Romero Games. And just to show you, yeah, it's from Romero Games. And there, apparently John Romero himself went to the post office and signed it to be sent off to me to Austria. And I joked on Twitter when I got this book that, hey, cool, I got this book from Brenda Romero, and look at this, I even got a bonus autograph from John Romero. And she was kind to respond on Twitter and said, do you want a real autograph of John Romero? And I said, thanks for the offer, but already got one. I'm good. I'm a fan. It was a big fanboy moment. Talking about big fanboy moments, it's even side. Philip, keep designing. She doesn't know that that in order to keep designing, I should have started to design it at some place. But there we go. Oh, hey, Opapi is also there. Hi. So yeah, let's have a look at some of those challenges or exercises in a sense. Like I said, it's very much based on what you can do with a pen, pencil, on paper, and it's really to get your mind off all those programming design considerations that are constantly going on. For example, I once just intended to make, just as a test project in Unity, I think this was 2 years ago, 1.5 years, 2 years, where I thought, yeah, I just want to try to make a very quick hidden object game, just a couple of objects so that I can read mouse input and do some sounds and stuff. In the end, I didn't do a lot of design work on this. All I did was try to come up with a JSON format or a scheme or a schema for JSON that was open to extension, and also you had different versions of localization support in there. It was just crazy for a hidden object game where, yeah, is this a plural of a word? Does this belong to a group or something? I was completely overthinking it again, and this is why this book is really something for you. You can see I also made a lot of highlights there, and this book already spawned one of my first oh, look at this, even got a sticker there. I think I used this as my what's it called, bookmark, of course it's called bookmark. Just was thinking, what's bookmark in English, but it's bookmark. So this was what prompted me to design in one evening. It was a frenzy, just on paper, to design a board game version of Mario Kart. And I think I even posted it somewhere and said, yeah, this is my pen and paper design of Mario Kart. It's called Cario Kart, copyright infringement, fun for the whole family. And I think I want to test this with some friends, but it's nice that just dabbling in board game design or just having things work on paper gets your mind in completely new directions. And I think this is great, especially if you're usually just worried about how to integrate something, how the performance of something is, how easy it will be to step through 20,000 polygons to get the right one. No, this is all about design, and it's good, and I think I'm not even halfway through it because I really wanted to do each and every single one of those challenges, because in most of those workbooks or something, you just read them before bed and think, yeah, this is interesting. Okay, now list all the things that you, okay, yeah, I'm listing them. Yeah, let's assume I listed them so I can keep on reading. And yeah, like I said, it's a lot of game design challenges in terms of puzzle design and skill design, how to design for different skills, and suggested processes in there, or creating sequels. So yeah, there's a whole lot of information there. And like I said, I'm just not even halfway through, but the challenges that I did, I enjoyed very much. So, and I think this was all the books that I have prepared for today. Oh, let's get John Romero's autograph back in there so that the next time I stumble upon it, that I will be pleasantly surprised, like I was before when I was preparing this stream. Cool, let's have a look on the chat. What was the first stream that you got to? Oh yes, oh hi Frost Silent. That's a nice name. It's like something you would put as a cooler onto your PC. That's called Frost Silent because it's cool and quiet. This is what I want my computer to be, cool and quiet. So give him some shades and just sits there like this. This is a cool and quiet computer. Oh, grats for 8K subs, by the way. Oh, thank you. Yeah, out of nowhere, it seemed, because I didn't. Some people tend to check their religiously every hour, hit F5 and check their subscriber status, which I also did at points. But recently, I just had so much going on and I forgot. And then I looked at it and I had 7,999 subscribers, and I had to put it on Twitter. And one guy was nice enough to say, "I subscribed. Where's my cookie?" And now I'm over 8,000, so I'm looking to getting even further and to raise my power level above 9,000. So this will be my next milestone for me personally. And to achieve this is, well, I'll be working on some more videos, of course. I have some plans for the future, and of course there is this big Ludum Dare 42 that I want to finish, but yeah, more on that in a bit. This might give you ideas for the next Ludum Dare. Yeah, I hope so. Like I said, my biggest problem with Ludum Dare is that I feel that I can't think about design as much as I have to worry about, am I really able to get the technical underpinnings working? Like this Ludum Dare 42 thing that I was doing. Because with Ludum Dare 42 I didn't finish, and this is the whole purpose of outlining how everything went from bad to worse in the post-mortem. And it pretty much came down to that I wanted to make a game that was relying on, I'm not trying not to spoil anything, but my game structure, I wanted to do something, but in order to maybe it's better if I bring an example. For example, maybe you have this great idea for a comedic RPG where you say, yeah, and then you find this gemstone, but it's actually a jam stone. It's made out of jam or something like this. And this would be a great funny thing. And yeah, of course. But to get to this point, you have to design a whole RPG around it that works by itself until you are at this point where you can get into the actual design, or in this case, into the joke. And this was the problem that I was having with Ludum Dare 42, that everything, all those affordances that players are expect how things behave when you do something in this kind of game, it was just too much. And in the end, I realized all I did was code an inventory system, and not even good one, without having there any game. And so I think those game dev challenges are good in a sense for me personally, that they allow me to practice and exercise my semi-existing, almost non-existent game dev experience or game dev prowess. Like I said, because in most of my games, I don't come to the point where I'm actually designing user interactions and anything. It's just making it look pretty, in a sense. So maybe, you know what, maybe I should do more challenges on paper and maybe release a board game design or something like that. I've subscribed since the post-mortem of 6210 BC, and all of them are really good. Oh my god, this is quite a long time ago. I recently watched my previous post-mortems, and some of them I can't bear to watch anymore because my diction is so weird. And yeah, I was just still trying things out at finding my voice that I had, and I sound so serious and I was so mumbling a lot of the times. I think with the post-mortem of Pressure Run was because I didn't really have a script. I more or less just talked over the edit, and this was it, and this is why it's so horrible. So thank you for staying so long with me on this very channel. I really hope that, not on this very channel, on my other channel, but you know what I mean. So yeah, I really hope that you stick around, and like I said, I got some things cooking. But first, you know what, I'm not talking about challenges for game designers anymore, so let's do this, so that I'm not misleading anyone who's just scrubbing through a recording of this stream, and they're now wondering what the hell am I talking about and what this has to do with challenges. So, still caught up to the vids in the release before. It's 4:40 in the morning for me. Oh my god. Either way, get some sleep or you're up early. Yeah, with me, I'm always a night person, so 4:40 to me would mean, yeah, I try to wrap things up for the day. But man, 4:40, really, I appreciate it that you stayed up that long to watch me just ramble about some books that I find nice and cool. Yeah, talking about books, please let me know if you like this kind of stream where I'm just randomly talking about books that I like, because I got a whole shelf of books and I got even some digital books. So maybe I do this once every couple of weeks. So it's not going to be just books from now on. But I thought just maybe it would be nice talking about the printed word where you don't need a computer to read it unless it's an ebook. Then of course you would need some kind of computer. So this sentence didn't go anywhere. Either way, so I'm from Germany. It's only 21:50. So this is good. Hi, oh Papi. Grüße nach Deutschland. Which is greetings to Germany. Yeah, what have I got cooking? Well, right now at the moment, after the last release, which was I was just so glad that it was done and I had to unwind for a week. And then, of course, I realized, yeah, now it's the new year, it's a new decade, and this means for me backing up and doing archiving stuff, because I had some harrowingly bad experiences with hard drives crashing, with projects on them. I lost a good year worth of making music when a file crashed. In 2004 I stored all my digital photographs on an external hard drive, and then someone tripped over the cable and it just crashed on the floor and I lost it all. So this is why I'm very serious about archiving stuff, and I have this huge tower there on my home network that has all the hard drives from pretty much everything that I did since I first started creating stuff up to now. And I back up pretty much everything now onto tape, onto those little cartridges, if you can see them. And this is what has been occupying me for the past week, because it takes 16 hours to write 500,000 files to a tape. The good thing is one of those tapes holds 6 terabytes of files, so this is great because you don't have to lug around hard drives. And yeah, this is what I've been doing instead of making videos. It's just going through myriads of files. I got here a whole tower of old hard drives. It's like 20 of them. So, but at least those have all been sorted and categorized so that I can find something. For example, if you tell me, didn't you do this one video in 2003 that was called so and so, and I can say, yep, even got the audio track there and the video tracks there in this folder. So everything that I haven't lost to data breaches or data loss, I still know and where to find it. And yeah, like I said, this is taking a lot of time, and I'm having this tape drive here, which is called an LTO. It's a linear tape operation, I think what it stands for. And this thing is loud. So this is apparently made for server rooms, and it's been jingling in my ears since since I've been doing this for a week. But I'm almost done. I just got I think 8 more tapes or so to write, and then I'm done with it, and then I can continue working projects. So, damn, I forgot tea since I found you streaming. Oh my god, I hope you get some Earl Grey hot. Did any one of you watch Picard? I did, and the first one I didn't like as much, because I thought, oh my god, they're doing this whole Federation is actually evil, and it appears to be like a Lost series. But then I watched the second episode, and now I'm hooked, so there we go. Yeah, talking about videos. So what do I have planned for the upcoming weeks and months of this year? Well, one thing I always wanted to do was, if you watch my channel or have dug through my channel, there's this one video about chromatic aberration. What is it and why should I care? And this was a very quick video that I did a couple of years ago, just without a lot of preparation, just looking at some pictures that I found and roughly explaining what chromatic aberration is and why it's important, or why I feel sometimes it's important or it's justified, and so on. Funny thing is, this is, I think, my second or single most popular video, because people just go to YouTube and what is chromatic aberration? For some reason this crappy video shows up. Point is, I'm not happy with it anymore. I want to do it properly, and it probably won't take much time, and it will be a very short video, I think up to 10 minutes, just to have a good version of it, that I'm, with my sensibilities that I have today, that I'm very happy and content with, and don't every time someone comments on this video I think, oh no, they saw this old video and it's not really good and my hair is worse than it is now. So so yeah, I really want to just do a HD remaster of it in a sense. Yeah, of course, the other thing is the big Ludum Dare 42 thing, which I haven't worked on this year, but I got things in place, or at least mildly scheduled where I want to work on it, because like I said, I don't want to cut corners on it any longer, because now, since it's taken so long to get it to this point, I want to get it 100% right, so that I don't have to look at it and go, oh man, if I just spend another day on this one shot, then it wouldn't look as shitty. And so this is why I want to go all in, because this again will be taking a while. The other plan is to work on some of the past Ludum Dare documentaries more. I think I'm behind 4 or 5 Ludum Dares for which I recorded and the footage and also recorded my notes, so that I know what was going on at what stage in the jam. But the problem is that some, I think, is 1 or 2 years back in the past, and I probably don't quite know what I was thinking at the time. So all I can do is just look at the video footage and my notes and somehow conjure up what I probably might have been thinking at the time. So this is probably not going to be interesting looking back from a couple of years distance. So my idea is to bunch 3 or 4 postmortems together into one, and to look for similarities where it's like, in Jam 41, I was, after 3 hours, I was starting with getting the idea, or starting on the idea and actually programming. And with the other jams, look at this at the same time in this year, I was in the cafe right now, and just something so that 4 jams play out in a parallel fashion, that we can each see how things changed for me over the years as I was game jamming. This is interesting, I think, because it really is tense and something that I haven't done before, because sometimes I think with my game jam experiences, it feels to me that it's pretty much the same thing. I try to come up with the best idea ever, I break down, then I go to sleep. The next day I beat myself until I got something, and then it's just trying to get it done. So, and I think with this new approach to it, I can on one hand catch up with my videos, and on the other hand is get another video out, and it will probably be not as long as the last one, but who knows. And of course, with Ludum Dare in April, I already got my holidays sorted out that I can partake, and of course, I will be recording it as always and making a Ludum Dare post-mortem as always. And I think it works best for me if I start working as soon as I'm done with it. So like with the latest one, the Ludum Dare 45, that I really have something that's done and out, and not something that you have to wait for 20 or 22 months it is already. Christ. Yeah, that's it from my side. Let's have a look at the chat, because apparently I neglected it. Apologies. I like these streams, it's chill and relaxed. Oh, thank you so much. Has anyone read The Art of Game Design, a book of lenses? Oh yeah, the lens approach from Jesse Schell. I have heard a lot of people talk about it, and not quite sure how applicable it is, because I think it's 10 years or so old, but I think it's still, especially if you're into more of the I don't mean to say the academic side of game design, but more on a top-down level. This doesn't sound right. More of a grand perspective, and not so much focus on certain things. I think this lenses perspective, or this lenses approach from Jesse Schell is quite interesting. Schell Games, by the way, they do they laid a lot of groundwork for VR games. So maybe if you're interested in VR stuff, check out the talks from Jesse Schell about VR. I think there's something in there, because from what I recall, I hope I'm not misattributing those talks, but I think, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there that I would have never dreamed that would be applicable to VR. Just one thing that comes to mind is how to do user interfaces. You can't just do a big text box on top of everything and then things feel wrong, for example. So a lot of this just came to mind when I heard the word Jesse Shell. So apologies. I'm rambling again. I think I should cut this stream short. I got here when he was talking about the Signed John Romero book. Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah, about the other streams. Maybe I will do a stream on Saturday. Sometimes I will announce it in advance, of course. But I think this might be easier on the weekend, especially for people who live in vastly different time zones and really have to make have to schedule things differently and their sleep and where they are awake. So I really appreciate it that you really take time out to watch me talk. I'm just this random guy in Austria talking about his books, so I really appreciate it. So thank you for staying up to watch me. Don't remove the old version, new one might not catch on and there's nothing. Yeah, as always with versioning, I just updated my personal media wiki the other day and man, this is a drag. I don't know why I opted for media wiki, probably because I'm so used to doing all this Wikipedia markup, but it always goes without saying, don't remove the old version. You could make a video about what things you would recommendable for you to your next Ludum Dare by looking at the clips. Oh yeah, maybe. This sounds interesting so that I can look at the clips and say, okay, what can we learn from this disaster here? Then I make a nice outline of things that I need to have learned, and then I will completely ignore them and walk straight into the rake again. It's like this one GIF of Sideshow Bob where the whole ground is filled with rakes and he just kept stepping on one. It's stepping on the next, and I think this is my Ludum Dare experience. I've learned so much, and somehow I just disregard it and walk into the same problems time and time again. I'm not sure how I'd handle it, but I know YouTube search results and recommendations are weird. They are. I don't think anyone has figured out the YouTube algorithm, because some people are complaining that even though they clicked the bell, they didn't get notifications. Other people say they got spammed with notifications, and other people are somewhere in between or didn't even know that they automatically got unsubscribed. I think Jim Sterling had some of his viewers voice that sentiment. Who knows what's going on with YouTube? Sometimes they are running A/B testing with a couple of channels. You're not informed if your channel is among those being A/B tested for God knows what. So yeah, in any case, blame YouTube, which is always good, because I as a YouTuber can always blame YouTube, and it is never I that is who is at fault. The grand perspective is the thing that makes it still applicable today. I also think there is a new edition. Yeah, right, there is a new edition. I think this is what I heard, that the older one is not as applicable since there is a newer version. So yeah, lenses approach by Jesse Shell. Never hurts to have more game design knowledge as tools in your tool belt. Read and study voraciously. I still got 300 or so GDC talks in my watch later list on YouTube, but I managed to watch at least, I think I got 150 down already, because it's, even if I think I'm not interested in this or it will never be something that I will have to worry about, for example, how to scale your server farms for your MMO and what are the approaches. But it's so just damn interesting to learn about all those struggles. Again, it's like with those books on a grand scale, where it's like, man, I didn't know that this really is an issue and how to mitigate it. It's like doing multiplayer games, which I'm just so very much afraid of, because I know, thanks to all those GDC talks, I know way too much about all the problems that you have with, with matchmaking, with players, estimation and interpolation and prediction and stuff, and when things don't work out, and cheating. So it's just this huge field. But it's so interesting. So again, I'm rambling. I need to cut myself off here. In LDs, there's always a tantalizing, irresistible urge to try new things that you've never done before. That's okay, but it's easy to overscope. Yeah, I think you pretty much pretty much characterized me, what I'm doing. So yeah, but in the end, isn't this the fun part of Ludum Dare? If you always do the same kind of jump and run and just do bits and pieces differently than you would always do, what's the point in it? What's the fun? To me, a game jam is always a time to try out new stuff, to push myself, and to jump headfirst into a new engine, because why not? And so far, most of the times it worked, so what do I know? I wanted to say, after watching the latest video, you didn't have to be so scared of Unity. It looks intimidating, but there are lots of similarities to Game Maker. Yes, but I'm still scared. I have this huge hurdle to overcome when I really want to click the Unity icon for real, because I know, okay, I will be spending a lot of time trying to wrap my head around this whole object-oriented thing on one hand, but then I'm with Game Maker, where I just think I throw just some stuff together and get it to work, and then I realize, man, all those objects are manipulating variables in each other, and it's become a nightmare to debug because there's no real scoping in Game Maker. Oh man, I wish I would have done this with a more object-oriented approach. So whatever I'm doing, I will be complaining, but with Unity it's just so much. And now there's this new Unity version out, and I just glanced over the release notes of what's different now, and I thought, oh my god, no, I don't want to start with a Unity game now, because now everything is different and you don't find tutorials for all this cool new stuff. So maybe I will give it a month or two before I look into it again. But then maybe I got this one grand game idea, and then I just start coding stuff up in Twine or something. I'll still do Inform 7 and still find it fun. Yeah, with Inform 7 I tried it, and for some reason I don't like it, because it's this plain English approach to thing, where it's you are in the office. The office is a room. In the office there's a container or something. You write it like this, and to me I find this horrible. I don't know why, but I mean, I'm certainly aware that you can write in Inform 6, which is much more an object-oriented programming language. But the bottom line is that I think once I tried interactive fiction, I went to TED's. Was it TED's, the adventure game studio or something, and got something to work there, but then it just kept crashing, and also kept crashing the editor, and I said, screw this, I will do it in ink or in Twine, and pretty much forego any of this world building, world model stuff that TED's offers. For example, you can say that rooms are stacked on top of each other, so if you drop an item on one room, it drops down to the other room, because the engine knows that those rooms are on top of each other and there's gravity affecting them, and it can even have liquids or water flow from one room to the next, and of course distribution of light and brightness. And this was when I thought, oh, it's getting too much for my brain again. I started off with Game Maker, and Unity is scary, but I got the hang of it. I think this is what I experienced with my latest game, as you've probably seen. It's not that bad. You can do stuff the good old Game Maker way, but then again, there's things like scriptable objects, and a lot of those little things that you have to know or have to experience before, like the class name must match the file name of the class. So, I mean, of course, now it makes perfect sense, but I didn't know this. It's just, maybe I'm just a little bit worried that it takes me too long to get into stuff. But then again, like I said, you never know when you might try to get back into Unity. There are pretty good tutorials for Unity on YouTube. Once you get the hang, you can catch up on most of it quite fast, I'd say. Yeah, this is another thing with the tutorials. Everyone is making their own tutorials, and I've watched so many tutorials, and some of them are building on other stuff. Other tutorials I've watched, I don't have a lot of knowledge, but I would think, yeah, this looks good and very straightforward now, but what if my game is much complexer than this? Then this looks like it's not maintainable. Yeah, the bottom line is, in the end, I should just start doing bad code, which I know is bad code, and then start doing it from scratch once I know what to do. I think this is generally a problem that I have, is this slight tendency that I can make bad code work somehow instead of just scrapping it and starting over, which in many cases is the best thing you can do. Once you have a clear understanding of all the issues and all the problems you have in a certain project and all the dependencies and the structure of it all, scrap everything you got and start anew. I think this is what John Carmack once said when he's just sketching with structs. So you don't write classes, you just have structs, and you know where the data needs to flow and just what fields you need and so on. So yeah, maybe I think I will do this one day or another, because I have this strange enjoyment when I come up with file formats or something. And to me, it's still a miracle if I come up with something, a binary file format, and then, oh my God, it really reads the value from address 0800 and then knows that it's a string that's terminated by a null byte and so on. So this is something that gives me joy. When you make a new class, let Unity make the file for you. That will prevent that from happening ever again. Yes, this is what I did, and then I renamed the class name in Unity to make it clearer, and then it didn't update the class name in Visual Studio or something along that was the problem. In short, I was being dumb and I reaped what I have sown. But no joke, problems I need answer to, and someone has the same and just fixed it. Never mind, fixed it. Yeah, I think this was the whole genesis of this whole joke, was when I was trying to get a hold of my scriptable object problem, and someone had the exact same problem, and they just wrote, never mind, fixed it. And I thought, oh God, how? And I did spend some time trying to track this person down and message them directly, but then I realized, why bother? There must be something else to it. And at least I came to a solution. But man, at one point, especially with things where there are so many tutorials and so many forum posts and pretty much everyone, it feels, is using Unity, you don't know if a solution that you happen to come upon is the right one for you, because like I said, character controller. There are so many different kinds of 3D, 2D character controllers, and all have those different use cases. Some try to be very general, some try to be very specific but feature laden, and of course there are many in the asset store, app store. No, it's called asset store. That's right. And for myself, this completely terrifies me. I'm just petrified there in front of it, and oh my God, so many choices, and I don't know which is the right one. And then I try to start reading up on everything, and in the end, all I need is just a capsule collider that you can steer around, just to make sure that it doesn't topple over when it hits another capsule collider. So my point is that when I will start a game for real in Unity, I won't use the asset store, because from those couple of things that I bought on the asset store and tried out in Unity projects, it just messed up everything. It's just this huge convoluted mess of stuff, and I only need this one feature, and this is why I bought this asset store asset, but it does so much more which I don't need, and it just makes it so hard for me to get a mental picture of how all those systems are interconnected. So again, I'm rambling. My point is, when I'm working with Unity, I will probably start from scratch and do things and stuff way unintentionally bad. But I think this is okay. I think I'm coming to terms with it right now for myself. I think it's cool if I just start with something. I know it's bad code, and maybe I will fix it later. And if it performs well enough on my tablet computer, then I say screw it, it works well enough. Okay, let's have another look at it. Oh, it's Mr. Julius. Greetings, Mr. Julius. It's nice that you've dropped by, because I'm almost running over 1 hour and 30 minutes right now, it tells me, and I haven't been talking for books that long. I'm just rambling right now. So I try to wrap things up for today, just going through the chat messages and commenting on them. One of the things you do not get as a beginner is a good intuition on whether a specific answer or suggestion makes sense. Yes, this is perfectly well put on all the problems that I have all the time, not just with programming. It's pretty much everything. Oh dear, I need to change a light bulb. Well, it's maybe not, it's a light bulb or something, but I have no idea how to do this. There are so many tutorials. Which one is the right one for me? And you never know. I find a good tutorial for a specific thing in Unity and jumble it into my games. Yeah, and this is another joke that I wanted to make in one of those stand-up bits. Is programming is not so much trying to come up with a perfect solution for your problem. In a sense, when you're not that good, like myself, programming is trying to make your problem fit the solution that you find in a forum. And I did this more than once, I think, where, yeah, okay, it's assuming this about my code, so yeah, maybe I should do a raycast. Then I don't have a raycast, so just that it returns something that the next function works or so. So yeah, like I said, maybe the best way is just trying to figure out stuff by myself and then copy pasting stuff together, and then afterwards learn of how I could have done things much more efficiently, like using ternary operators, if that's even the right term. I bought an asset and overlooked that parts of it was written in JavaScript, but I was coding in C# and wasn't able to link the code. Oh dear, oh dear. Upside down books are the best. Oh, I'm sorry. Look at this. It's my favorite game. Wood. For the thanks, I just realized that there is a pony. When for the thanks for nothing, I have no idea what this means, but we always get ponies there. Where I'm standing, we got ponies and unicorns. This is cool. I saw a nice quote this weekend. We have problems for all your solutions. Oh, this is a perfect quote. Yes. I think this should this should be the motto of Stack Overflow. Wood. Cool. Okay, thank you so much for bearing with me talking about books. Please let me know if talking about books is something that I should do more often. I have no idea what to stream next week or whenever I will do the next stream, maybe in 2 weeks or something, I don't know. Again, I need to do finish all my archiving work, and then it's making an HD version of a video and then doing stuff. Maybe at some point even my Pixel Prophecy pad. Just a very short announcement. Yeah, I'm designing another notepad for Pixel Prophecy. I got a lot of feedback on Twitter on what programmers usually use paper for when they are programming, on how to do stuff. Yeah, I got a bunch of designs here. Yeah, and I want to have this printed to use for myself, and also maybe make it available for purchase. Who knows? Maybe someone is interested in this. So this is another project that I'm having on the side. Man, I have so many projects on the side, I don't know where to start. But maybe this would be interesting for a future chat, for a future stream where we can talk about it in the chat, what stuff is going on with me. Also, that's a good quote from me. Give me a program and I accidentally break it. I managed to break from my web hosting provider the terminal. For some reason, it allowed me to open a terminal, and all I typed was PHP because I wanted to find out which PHP version is running. And just typed PHP without anything, hit twice enter, and then I couldn't log into it again for 2 hours or something. So this is also something that I'm good at, breaking stuff, as is evidenced here by YouTube. When I'm streaming, but without hitting go live, and I've been talking to 40 hours, oh no, 40 hours, 40 minutes, 40 hours, Jesus, 40 minutes into the void to myself. So again, thank you so much for your patience, for keeping up with whatever this is here. Thank you so much for subscribing to this little channel where I'm just talking about stuff that's occupying me. And I hope to see you soon, maybe next week, maybe in 2 weeks or something. And all I can say is may the unicorns watch over you. Have a great rest of the weekend, or get some sleep. I'm talking to you, Frank, and Frost Silent. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, see you around, and follow me on Twitter if you don't. And be sure to hit the like button. Apparently, I'm mandated by YouTube to say this. So have a good night. Yes, you too.